Greetings everyone and welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm your host Captain Ryan. Today's YouTube video comes from subscriber Grozny Ivan, who is sailing the Tier 6 premium US battleship, the USS Arizona, here in World of Warship. It's neighbors, it's domination match mode, and it's ranked, as you can tell by the 2 domination caps. As the battle gets underway, his team looks like they're pushing up towards the B cap point. Now normally the team that spawns on this side of the map will tend to push the A cap point, while the team on the opposite side of the map will tend to push the B cap point. There's not anything wrong with pushing the B cap point from this side of the map since the caps are so close, but you do absolutely have to have that coordination here. Everybody needs to be on the same page that that's where you're going to go. Now, as we can see, the enemy pushing up to the B cap point, both teams have one destroyer that's rushed up to the A cap point and has started to engage each other. Now, Grozny is going to get his shots lined up here, and if he's good with those shots, he can really put some serious hurt onto that destroyer. People often forget that battleship guns, yes, while they will over-penetrate, they will still put some serious hurt onto destroyers if shot. Now, his team manages to secure the B cap point, and that's going to be somewhat important going forward in the battle because the enemy team hasn't yet managed to secure the A cap point, and they're not yet challenging the B cap point. So that's going to give Ivan's team that little bit of a points advantage, and as we're going to see, an early points advantage is really going to save your bacon. It's going to keep you in the fight longer. And in ranked battles and even random battles, sometimes you need every possible minute you can get in order to secure a victory. Now, Ivan does something that I don't recommend, and that's turning his ship the opposite direction and forcing his rear gun turrets to come around. Fortunately, though, he does it when he is at the best spot and time to do so. He's behind an island, so people can't really shoot at him simultaneously. He can't really shoot at any of them, so his guns are out of the fight, but they're not completely out of the fight. There's nothing for them to shoot at anyway and be able to hit. Now, as he comes around the island, his guns aren't quite in position, but he does start getting shots out downrange at this Dunkirk over here, and that Dunkirk is broadside on. The Dunkirk's got pretty good bow armor, does a pretty good job defending against these 14-inch shots, but not from the broadside. And the enemy team is now starting to push up into the B cap point. They are challenging the B cap point. If somebody could get up there and spot whatever's in there, and it looks like it's the Bayern that's in there, so he gets shots out at the Bayern. At the very least, he can reset that cap progress, prevent the Bayern from gaining any more points. The enemy team has killed one of their destroyers, so they do have a destroyer advantage now, and that's going to play an important factor. And the enemy team has now lost one of their ships. And pay attention to that one ship they've lost, because that's the only ship so far that his team has managed to kill. And it wasn't Ivan who killed that player, so it was somebody else on his team. Now, as he comes around here, both enemy destroyers are pushing the A cap point, and we know at least one of them is pretty low health. Another one here that's fairly low health. His engines are knocked out, and it doesn't look like that destroyer captain has a last stand, so he's forced to repair that damage. Ivan gets his shots lined up there, and he gets a broadside out, and he causes a significant amount of damage, and while they were all over penetrations, that was all that was needed. It's 12 over penetrations. So that destroyer gets sent to the bottom, and that puts his team in a good position because, again, they're up on points, and because the enemy team still hasn't managed to cap anything, they're not gaining any points. So that means that the enemy team is down below that 300 points. Now Ivan's got to do a bit of very heavy maneuvering here as these torpedoes come in from that Fubuki. Unfortunately, doesn't quite make that turn tight enough and does get hit, but has his repair, and he did only get hit in the stern, so that wasn't that bad. Pops the damage control, pops the repair, starts recovering that health. Now, he does something here that I probably wouldn't have recommended. He starts turning his attention towards these battleships over at the B cap point, and the enemy team has capped the B cap point, so they are going to start gaining some points and close that points lead, especially since Ivan's team does not have any caps right now. He gets more shots onto the Dunkirk, but only manages some over penetrations. Now, why I say he's done something that I don't recommend is because there's a very low health Cleveland up here who is still detected. And in ranked, you really have to take guns out of the game, especially guns that can light you on fire. So I would have continued keeping my guns pointed at that Cleveland and trying my best to finish him off sooner rather than later. Again, remember, in ranked, you absolutely have to take guns out of action. As long as they're in the game, the enemy team still has that ship. That means they have the ship lead advantage, and that means that somebody can still shoot you. Ivan takes a torpedo from the enemy Fubuki and does cause flooding. Luckily for him, his repair and damage control are not long from cooldown, so he pops his damage control. His repair is going to be up here, and he's going to get that going again and recover that health. Good use and good timing there for him. If he'd been hit by torpedoes sooner, he probably would have taken more damage from the flooding associated. But simultaneously, if he hadn't been hit, he could have saved that repair for another better use. However, he's going to keep himself with a nice amount of HP, and he's going to get himself turned away. You'll notice that his team is now really spread out, and this is a very serious problem. His team is seriously spread out back along their spawn from the A all the way up to the B cap point, and this means that the enemy team can really just kind of pick and choose to engage them when they want and pick them off one at a time. Now Ivan turning away here, he's going to take shots in there from the Cleveland, and that's why I say he should have finished off that Cleveland, because that Cleveland's firing high explosive. That means that guy could very easily set him on fire, and his repair's not available yet. So if he sets him on fire, that fire is going to burn for a little bit. As that Bayern came around that island, he did get shots onto that Bayern and put some pretty significant hurt onto him. But it's a Bayern. It's very difficult to Citadel. It's got that turtleback armor. And there, as he shoots into the bow, he really just gets a lot of ricochets. If you find yourself facing a bow-on battleship, especially a bow-on German battleship with that turtleback armor, my recommendation, if you've got your armor piercing loaded, and you probably do, is to shoot high. Aim for the superstructure. At the very least, you might incapacitate one of their gun turrets. Yeah, you're going to get over penetrations, but they're over penetrations on the superstructure, so that's some damage rather than ricochets. More torpedoes coming in here from that Fubuki, really trying to put the hurt on him. Ivan slows way down, slams on the brake, misses those torpedoes. That's excellent for him. The Bayern secondaries are opening up on him, and they are absolutely ripping into him. And that's when the Cleveland pops up again. And the Cleveland, well, he's broadside on, and you know, if you're broadside on to a battleship, you're gonna get smacked. And with any luck, these shots will land and take care of that Cleveland and end him so that Ivan can repair. And that's when the Fubuki pops up. Now this is target prioritization 101. You've got a very low health cruiser. It's very tempting to kill him, but the Fubuki, that's got torpedoes and can stealth up, so he is going to be the absolute priority. He's also pretty low health there. As you can see, the Fubuki's about to stop. He's going to pop his smoke screen to try and drop off. Ivan puts shots into him and finishes him off just as that smoke screen starts concealing him. Target prioritization 101. if something with Destroyer pops up in detectability range, especially if they're stealthy, and especially if you are inside of their torpedo range, you absolutely must prioritize shooting that ship first. If you shoot anything else, you're going to have a bad time. Now, he's got to thread the needle here. He doesn't quite make it with the first set of torpedoes, but ooh, look at that. Manages to scrape the paint off of that torpedo bulge as those torpedoes sail right by him. Now, in this particular case, again, looking at the two options to shoot at, I would be shooting at the Cleveland in the back that was highlighted there just briefly, because he's lower health and because he can set me on fire, and because that Baron does not seem particularly interested in shooting at me. He's currently occupied shooting at the other teammates. But look at the situation. Ivan's team has got themselves into a very bad situation. The enemy team now has a points advantage. They have a cap, so they're gaining that. Their cap is being contested, so they're not gaining those points. And his team is down to just 3. Ivan himself, very low health here. He does not have a lot of options. He's going to recover some of that health. But if any of the enemy ships decide to want to start shooting at him, that recovery process is going to get delayed. He's not going to be able to recover as much health as he wants. That Baron, though, still doesn't seem particularly interested in shooting at him. And again, this goes into target prioritization. This Baron is trying to shoot at other ships like the cruiser, something soft and squishy, but fails to notice the battleship that's very low health that he could probably kill a lot quicker. So Ivan is going to continue to put rounds on target, and now it's down to him and a cruiser left on his team. The enemy team has 4 ships left, including that very low health Cleveland. The Leander that's back down there is helping Ivan quite a lot, since the Bayern here is the only ship that either of them can see and shoot at. It kind of helps. So they're both concentrating this guy down, and they're going to continue to put rounds onto him. He's very low health. With any luck, this will be the end of him. And yes, Ivan manages to finish off his 3rd kill in the game. And there's that Cleveland, very low health. He's hiding behind an island, so that's going to make it very, very difficult for Ivan to land hits. But now Ivan's got himself into a very, very tough situation. As you can see here, he's facing down 3 enemies. And while he does have that Leander is pretty much out in the open at the moment with 2 battleships that he's basically broadside to. And you can bet both of those battleships, they see him, they know who he is, and they're going to shoot at him. And now, Ivan is left alone. It's a shame that the Leander didn't die before the Baron got taken out, because this could be a potential solo warrior situation. But because it's 1 versus 3, and I honestly think they should drop the solo warrior requirement from 1 versus 4 to 1 versus 3, because then maybe I'd actually get one. It's 1 versus 3, and Ivan does not have a lot of health left, and he's facing down 2 battleships, and at least one of these battleships is bow onto him. And as you can see here, that bow on ship, that's the Dunkirk. That's a serious problem. Cleveland comes around the island and starts opening up, finally prioritizing the Cleveland. Why? Because this guy can set you on fire, and if you don't have a lot of health left, a fire is not what you need to have happen to you. So he gets shots out there, finishes that Cleveland off, takes him out of the game, finally doesn't have to worry about fires being set by that annoyance, and secures his team's only cap. But the enemy team is still up on points. And really, at this point, because the enemy team's up on points, they can do one of 2 things. They can either drop off detectability and disengage and go hide. It's in Arizona. It really cannot chase, especially not the Dunkirk, and run out the clock. Or they can try and focus their fire and finish off Ivan. Ivan has no more repairs left. Every bit of damage he takes is going to be permanent damage. That means as he closes in here on the Dunkirk, that Dunkirk secondaries, can cause some significant damage. And if the Dunkirk decides to set him on fire with his main battery guns, well, that means Ivan has to be very careful about how he uses his damage control ability in order to put any of those potential fires out. Now, that Dunkirk is doing something very stupid. I don't know what he's doing, but he's presenting Ivan the broad side of his ship, and the Dunkirk does not have armor for that. So Ivan's going to get his shots out here. Shots out, puts the hurt on him, but that's not enough to kill him. His rear turrets are facing that direction. Manages to Citadel him and finish him off. First, Kraken Unleash. He's got 5 kills at this point. Now he needs to turn hard and turn in if he wants to engage and deal with this Arizona. It's now an Arizona versus Arizona, and the enemy Arizona has more HP than Ivan does. But of course, as he turns in hard, you can see there shots bouncing off his bow. If I was that Arizona facing this kind of situation, I probably would switch over to my high explosive and set him on fire, land that superstructure, and guarantee damage. That Arizona, very low health. Ivan gets his ship turned. With the US battleships, turn your ship, not your guns. So as all of his guns are pointed the same direction, that's going to give him an advantage in this fight, especially if that Arizona decides to turn the opposite way. Of course, he gets more shots out there, ricocheting off the bow. The guy needs to aim a little bit higher if he wants to hit those over penetrations. These shots go out there, very low health, and now they're both turning to try and get their rear turrets on target. Who's going to get the first shots off? That guy does. This could be very, very bad for him. Ivan's ending the battle with less than 1,000 HP left there, but does take that ship out for 6 kills out of 7 in a ranked battle. Earns himself a Confederate, a Dreadnought, a Kraken Unleash, and a high caliber with 100,000 damage done. Very, very impressive from Ivan the Terrible here. Yes, a terrible, terrible result for the enemy team. And they had everything going right for them right up until they decided to perform the bad guy standard metric of engaging the good guy one person at a time. Top of the team for XP earned at well over 2,000 base XP. Good job, Grozny Ivan. Thank you for this replay. Anyway, that's it for today's YouTube video, folks. If you liked the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment down below. If you'd like to get semi-regular channel news and updates, as well as my live streaming schedule for the week, you can do so by liking and following me on Facebook. If you'd like to help support me, as well as gain some early access to my unfiltered World of Warships replays to enjoy at your leisure, you can do so by becoming my supporter on Patreon. If you've got a replay like this one that you'd like to see featured on my channel, you can do so by sending it to my email. And if you'd like to watch me play World of Warships, among other games, live, you can do so by liking and following me on Twitch. You can find the links for all of those in the video description down below. And as always, I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.